Well, welcome everyone. I am Professor David Loertscher from the iSchool at San Jose State University in California, and I am joined by my great student assistant, Michelle Young. And today we're going to talk about a problem which has been a part of elementary school libraries for at least 60 years. And so I'm going to just spend the first 5 minutes giving you a quick overview and then we will dig into the two solutions that I have. And so just in case you want to bow out at that point. So anyway, I have lived the history, I think, of school libraries almost. It seems like it anyway. And, I had a terrible library to begin with, and I hope none of you had the same. An elementary school library, the teacher used to take us up to a book collection, and we got to pick out one book and take it back to the classroom. And usually I'd already read it by the time I got back to the class. And then what would I do the rest of the week? In high school, the study hall was also, the library was on one end, and the librarian would allow some people up into the little corner that was the library. And you see those lawyer bookcases, and she would kind of follow you around as you peered through the glass. And if you decided that you wanted to see the book, she would raise the door so that you wouldn't break it, and you could select a book off there. Over in the corner was a box. I asked her what it was, with a bunch of drawers in it, and she said, "Keep your hands off. That's the card catalog. I spent all my time filing it, and I don't want you to mess it up." So I hope you had a better experience with libraries. I think during the 60s, when I got started, things were popping because of government grants. We were in NDEA time. That was when we were competing with the Russians on Sputnik. And so we had a lot of money. And so elementary school librarians were employed all over the country, and they and so it was a whole new exciting time. Now, during that time, also a teacher union were demanding time during the day, planning time. And so the noise around the administrative community was, well, if we hire, a librarian, a PE teacher, an art teacher, and a music teacher, and then we can have them tend the children while the teachers are doing their planning time. And so that became a very close standard, and it has that pattern still is available in many schools around the country, and that's how we handle planning time and library time. What we want to do right now is dig into the pieces, the two pieces, and demonstrate how a solution can be a both-and solution rather than an either-or. So during all of that time, many librarians were saying to administrators, but you're locking up on my whole school day with classes, and I don't have time to do what I need to do in partnering with the faculty members on learning experiences. And, so that argument has continued over these decades. And while the argument still exists, the idea of planning time has won and is still the predominant thing. So as I took a look at a solution, I decided, maybe the time has come because of so many developments in education, the change in the kinds of kids that are in school now, the cultures, the languages, the technology, and all this. Maybe now is the time to consider something different. So the first idea is to have what I call my time. And my time is on the part of the student. It's a time when they are assigned to the library. It is their time to learn what they want to learn rather than what adults want them to learn. And so they're taking ownership, and that's a responsibility. And they are starting to think about their own set of curiosities and creativity. And so it's actually a wonderful time to spend during the school day when adults are asking me to do a lot of things that I may care about or don't care about. At least I have once a week or whenever I can get to the Library Learning Commons, I have a space of time that I can work on what I want to work. So Michelle's going to just take us a tour in the next slide of, Michelle, act like you are one of these students who are coming to the Library Learning Commons during the fixed time or the time that you're assigned as a class to come to that Library Learning Commons. What are some of the options you might have?
Some of the options I think that would be really fun would be like maybe if they are all like having if they're using computer programs like on their computer or iPad, they could code and create a computer program. Or if they're learning through like gamification, they can also create and develop their own learning games. Or they can, instead of reading ebooks, they could write an ebook or read a regular book and write a regular book.
So they're just all kinds of things. They could use a robot or they could build a robot. So I'm sure if we got this, if we were in real time with you, we could get ideas and of what could happen in this learning commons that is just not consuming information. It's also creating knowledge. And that's quite a different atmosphere for a library learning commons than the, quote, traditional library. So we need to talk, however, about, I think it's on the next slide, where some things that need to happen as children start to realize that they are in control of their own learning. So the emphasis, number one, has to be in my time, that it's my time to learn. It's not my time to goof off. It's not my time for recess. It's time to pursue what I want to learn. And that will dawn. It won't happen immediately because generally teachers always feel like they have to, quote, be in charge. And the student has not developed this sense of owning their own life and their own learning life. So one thing they need to do is to realize that they are going to have to keep a log. And if you remember Leonardo da Vinci, he kept notebooks. And in those notebooks were all kinds of questions that he had. And he would not only record his questions, but he started to record his answers. And those notebooks have been translated into English and still exist. And so the idea for today's students is the same, that I can ask myself questions that I am interested in, and I can pursue the answers to those questions, or I can build, or I can create. And so, for example, if I were Michelle, and I came in and I immediately as I hit the door, I might bring in the books that I checked out last week when I was there, and I'd check them in and reshelve them, and then I would pick out some new ones to take home, and I would check those out to me. So that would be the very first thing I'd do. And then I'd sit down for my time and I would do what I wanted to do. I might have a partner, or I might be just sitting and reading. Maybe that's one of the things I want to do. Or maybe I'm reading to a stuffed animal, and maybe I'm writing a book. Since I'm learning Spanish, or I'm in Spanish, I'm writing a book that has both English and Spanish subtitles, and all sorts of things. And so I'm keeping that log, and that log will be my diary, and I will share that log with maybe my teacher if I want to, or maybe the librarian if I want to. I will share it with the librarian just as evidence that what I'm doing. And from time to time, I can do an oral report during, for example, during parent-teacher night, I can discuss with the parents. I can attend and I can tell the parents and show them what I've been doing during my time. And so I am accountable for that time. So now, so you might wonder, is this really happening anywhere? Well, one of our wonderful students in the master's degree, and also the person that helped write the Fix Flex book that you have access to, is Maggie Dowd from Everett, Washington. And so we're going to ask her to tell you what she's kind of been experimenting with. So go ahead and play her video.
Hi, my name's Maggie, and I'm a teacher librarian at an elementary school near Seattle. We have about 650 students. It's a dual language and Title I elementary school. So I see all kindergarten through fifth graders throughout the week. So I implemented the Fix Flexed method devised by Dr. L during library time with my third and fourth graders. And what happened was during our fourth grade library time, the fourth graders were engaged in their self-directed activities, specifically called My Time, where they independently pursued different activities. And we had agreed upon what that would look like. So during that time, they would check out their books. They would choose something, like they could read a book around the library. If they wanted to draw, color, or write a book, they could use a Chromebook. And right now they love Minecraft Education. Maybe they want to use puppets or Legos and different makerspace activities as well, depending on the day. So the fourth graders were doing My Time, and simultaneously, a third grade class came in with their teacher and joined the session. So we collaboratively dove into a discussion surrounding the third graders' animal research project. And I could collaborate with the third grade teacher at that time. And then when the bell went off, the fourth graders cleaned up and lined up quietly. And then we got them walking out with their teacher. And the third graders stayed in the library then for their library time, and we could continue on with their research. I posted information on the panel with the inquiry-based process, right? Like continually seek knowledge. I want you to engage in inquiry. Let's look at new understanding through real-world connections. And the last one, reflection to guide informed decisions, is really an area where I still need to focus on. The experience working with the third grade teacher enhanced the dynamics and afforded me the more favorable position to interact effectively with the third grade students. The fourth graders loved it too. They wanted to know why all these third graders were coming in. And with their enthusiasm, they actually were quite quiet and focused on their work. I was super excited about it and looking forward to some more experiences with the fixed flexed schedule.
Well, thank you very much. So you see that there's just a plethora of ideas on, what can happen during my time. And as students get the notion that their time, they are busy and they're not bothering adults and adults are not bothering them. And meanwhile, in another part of the Learning Commons, the librarian is working with a teacher and their class on another project. So that's a system that takes a little bit to help young people understand, but it is not impossible. And it's kind of fun to let the children themselves devise what they want to do during my time, rather than you trying to dictate, here's one of 3 activities you can do, for example. But anyway, so what's happening here is while my time is kind of going on, I'm kind of keeping my eye on, just overall, but what it's really done is it's carved out time to actually work with the rest of the faculty on what I would call partnering with learning experiences or co-teaching. And so and that opportunity allows me as the credentialed librarian to push into the center of the curriculum of the school and really make a difference in teaching and learning, rather than down the hall, teachers not really doing their planning time and not really caring what happens in the library, because it's just separate and different. So anyway. So the first concept of this partnership is that 2 heads are better than 1. And that means that 2 adults in the same room with learners can achieve more together than either one of them could have done alone. In fact, as this slide says, if you really get this system going, 1 + 1 = 3. In other words, more is learned in less time than you could have done alone yourself. And so, Michelle, and the second point here is what?
When you're co-teaching, it can be a lot less stressful for both adults, and it can also bring more joy into the teaching.
I think as the pressure to achieve test scores and stuff, many teachers have quit because they say the joy of teaching and learning that I've always known is gone, and all I'm trying to do is, quote, cover stuff and help kids pass tests. And when you have an actual partner who you get along with and you're feeding off of each other and sharing your expertise, suddenly the whole notion of that joy starts to return, because there's not so much stress on it's not a competitive atmosphere between you two adults. It's a collaborative feeling. And together in fact, what's going to happen as you try to document your impact, the percentage of students that achieve your goals, both as a teacher and also as a librarian, increase. In my own research, if you teach alone, you reach about half the students. They meet their goals or meet or exceed the goals. If you are teaching together collaboratively from beginning to end, that percentage number is going up from 70 to 100%. Now, in my book, that is a huge gain to both the learner and to the teachers who are building a track record of excellence in teaching and learning. Yeah, so Michelle is a pretty brand new teacher librarian in the school. And so I asked her, if you're trying to get this started as as this partnering, what are the things that you think you have to do to be successful at this role?
Well, there's many characteristics that can be supportive of a successful co-teaching experience, but I think starting out, it's really important to establish that open communication first and look at other teachers that you want to work with that you can complement each other's strengths. Also, it's really important as a teacher librarian to be flexible and adaptable, because we want to only add on to their teaching experience. We want to make it better for them, for the teacher, the classroom teacher. And in the end, also, it's really important that you reflect and get feedback so that you can every time make those learning experiences and those co-teaching points better and better each time.
I'm glad you brought up that last point. Yeah, it's reflecting together after it's all over with the students and say, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? How could we get better at this next time we work together in a piece of inquiry, or we're building or constructing or solving problems, or whatever the goals and objectives that we have to learn in social studies or science or math or what language arts or whatever we happen to be working. Now, you will want to develop an archive of these kinds of experiences and put them on the library website as evidence of what you're doing, and parents can take a look at what you've done and what's happening right now in the center, both in my time and also in partnering time, and so. And that is a major thing that you will want to do, is document, why this new solution is starting to make a difference in the culture of the school. And anyway, and as Maggie Dowd told you, it does make, it starts to change things around, maybe slowly at first, but anyway, which brings us to the next slide. How do you actually get started in doing both things at once, rather than either the fixed schedule or the flex schedule alone? So my suggestion is you start slow. Notice that Maggie started with one or the third and the fourth graders. She didn't try to do a massive change. I think it might take up to a whole semester to get, if you're in a school where the kids have never had taken responsibility for their own learning, it's a whole new ball game for them. But it's one that if you introduce it to them, they will start to take interest in that. And when they start doing that, that it is then time to start releasing them and carving out more time for partnering and co-teaching with instructors across the school. Okay, so the amount of trust that you're developing will be exactly the amount of success that you're having. Those two things go hand in hand. And then when you're documenting what you're doing, again, that starts to build evidence and of what's happening there. So you'll have to have a flexible space. And a lot of times, everything needs to be movable. So because you're going to have room for two different things to go simultaneously, and you want places to do video and audio and various kinds of things. So there might be a storage room you have to clean out to make a video studio with a green screen, all kinds of things. So if it doesn't move around, like you got to get the bookshelves on casters so that they can move, and you got to get rid of the 150-pound tables and have chairs that are easily movable and that sort of thing. So that kind of develops as you are experimenting with two simultaneously major learning activities happening in, quote, the same space. So do that. So we're most interested in linking with any of you who are listening on experimenting with this. And so if you would like to keep in touch with me, and perhaps we can build a community together of people who are doing this solution and start documenting it. I know as the number of professional librarians are going down in the country, we often have to reintroduce the whole idea of, quote, library with the idea of library learning commons. So please get a hold of me. I am easy to find at reader.david@gmail.com. And Michelle, here's her email address. And be sure that you take a look at the Fix Flex book, which I think was on the first slide, wasn't it, Michelle?
Yeah, I'll put it up again. They can see the QR code, and the bit.ly is available as well.
Yeah, so there's the book. And so you can read it, get more ideas, share your own ideas with us. And we would be thrilled to take a look at some research on as this whole solution hopefully develops over time. So thank you very much for attending our session, and we'll say goodbye.